Ladies and gentlemen, it is showtime. It is Tuesday night. It is waiver night. And do not even think about picking up or dropping anybody without listening to us tonight. We are together again, Fantasy Football Buzz Podcast. I am on the bottom. I'm a bottom tonight. Above me, I've got Cyclop over there, 2020 over there. Both like to be on top. How are you guys doing tonight?
I was better until you started with that kind of dialogue. Oh my
Don't
God!
be homophobic.
No, I'm not homophobic. Fantasy phobic because 2 weeks in a row, and you know what? I'm curious. Commish, put out our number. I want to hear some of the sob stories, some of the bad beats. So listen. We're in a lot of leagues. We're obsessed with this sport. 2 weeks in a row, league that Cyclop and I share. We have lost 2 weeks in a row by less than a point each week. And as a matter of fact, Keenan Allen last night dropped a 4-yard pass that would have given us the win.
Isn't it amazing how one small thing like that can make all the difference in the world? And I was going up against Austin Eckler last night, so you can imagine my fear. And luckily, with a little over 2 minutes to go, they took him out.
He went crazy.
Yeah.
So I got very lucky.
You also won last night with Eckler against me in our dynasty.
I won with Eckler against you. Right. It's weird how fantasy football does that.
It does.
It is. So, but you're right. 2020. I do want to hear people's
some bad
stories. I want to know what happened to you. Go ahead.
No. I'm saying it's not only Waiver Tuesday, but I'm going to start a call it Trade Tuesday. I'm putting out trades left, right to people. I don't get responses. I don't get counter offers.
Didn't you bitch about this on Sunday or last Tuesday?
Yeah, you did. We're not going to keep talking about that.
Nobody wants to trade.
I actually just made
a good trade. 3 more out today.
Listen. As a fantasy football player, is there anything worse than sitting there and you see a trade happen in your league? It's not with you. You see that 2 other people made a trade, and it is the most one-sided trade that you say to yourself, I would have given that poor schmuck something more than what this guy got for him, right? So, yeah, you're upset because no one's accepting your trades because you're either offering a fair trade or you're offering a trade that favors you too much. The only way you're going to get a trade done, especially in a league with people who know what they're doing, is to make it an unfair
to offer value. So I'll give you an example. And by the way, I'd love to hear that as well. No, make him offer fair value back. We just in another trade that Cyclop and I share a team. We have Jamal Williams, who's been on our bench, and this guy had Teddy Bridgewater as his quarterback with DeAndre Swift. We offered him Jamal Williams and Joe Burrow for DeAndre Swift. And you know something? That's a great trade. It's a good trade for both of us because their numbers are not incredibly dissimilar. We're going for the upside on Swift. He's getting a really good quarterback in Jamal Williams. Those are the kind of, what I would say good trades. And by the way, just for you, Commish, I want you to know I threw Peyton Barber in on the deal as well. And I think that was the kipper. Actually, I'm not kidding. I did.
Is he still in the league?
Oh, shut up. But what I do...
I mean, even Kenyon Drake got more carries than Peyton Barber yesterday.
Yes, but when Jacobs was out, Drake got like no carries and it was all Barber, and that's why I thought he was a sneaky play if Jacobs didn't play. But I'd love to hear, Commish, give the number after this. A, I want to hear some of your bad beats over the season, and B, what were some of the horrible trades that you saw go through in your league that are really getting under your skin? 2 things.
Yes, so give us a call, 772-800. We got a call coming in right now, but give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ. Or you can always ask your question in the comment section in Facebook Live or YouTube Live. But first, it is the Fantasy Football Buzz #1 fan. It is Kenneth from Texas. Kenneth, how are you?
Kenneth.
As far as my question of the night, I wanted to get y'all's take in regards to the situation in Jacksonville regarding one Urban Meyer.
Oh, man.
Our take?
Yeah.
So this can go so many ways, right? It's like video phones are ruining people's fun. Or
seriously, that's where you're going. Oh my God, we're a show of high standards and morality, people.
Okay, so here's my
right.
take. Here's my take on the Urban Meyer issue. Okay, I have no problem with a person doing what Urban Meyer did. What I have a problem with is if I'm the owner or a fan or a player associated with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I see a team that is being poorly coached, and then I see a coach making a poor decision, I have a problem with that. And I don't care what that decision is. It has nothing to do with the morality of him being married or touching the girl if she was okay with it. That's not my problem. My problem is that he wasn't thinking. He's making a bad decision. And as a coach of all people, you don't want a coach making a bad decision.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that. I think, and honestly, I honestly feel like I know probably the worst possible thing that could happen to a head NFL football coach is to have lost the credibility and respect of your locker room. And that is what has come out recently, that it wasn't a named source, but the fact of the matter is he has lost his players. That is the worst thing that can happen as a coach. And all the other stuff is white noise. What he did is stupid. You don't do that in a public place with phones being so accessible, and it's just dumb. It's amongst the many bad decisions that this guy has made. And I was a Gator fan, so I hate seeing this, but he's lost his team. So, I mean, my thought is it is not if, it is when he's going to get his walking papers. I don't think it's too far off. I really don't.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Maybe very soon.
I'm gonna have to agree with you, Commish, on this issue.
Yeah. What about you, Brad?
I'm my take on it is, it started with bringing Tim Tebow in as a tight end, right? And that kind of faded away, and it was just kind of a publicity thing, maybe, or whatever. But going out and doing this I think it all kind of compounds, right? They lost the game. He's not coaching well. He goes out and makes an awful decision, and she
was cute. How bad of a decision?
Agree.
But okay,
agree. But it's, and then they're trying to spin it like, oh, this group was trying to pull me on the dance floor and blah blah blah. No, not from that video. So don't try to spin it. He just made a really bad decision, and he's not coming back with the team to coach. He's staying to hang out with family, which isn't, commendable. I get that, but I don't think that was his family. So
right, but it's not his family. That's the problem. Right. Anyway, I think it's a great question, but we've got a lot of football to talk about today.
Two more issues before I hang up.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at an offer of Leonard Fournette and CEH for Juju Smith-Schuster and Saquon Barkley.
No.
Who are you giving up, and who are you getting?
It would be Leonard Fournette and CEH for Juju and.
Oh, then yes. I'm sorry. I thought you were CEH.
You're getting.
He's getting Saquon, right?
No,
and Juju.
Oh no! Don't give up Saquon. I don't know how you two feel.
Don't give up Saquon for and whoever the other one was. No.
Yeah, I mean Juju. Yeah, Juju and Fournette are the thrones in it.
No, because Leonard Fournette he had a good game the other night, but the truth of the matter is he's still in a running back by committee, and even if he's not, that's a throwing team. As far as CEH, we've seen what's happened to CEH. People knew this from the beginning. I never understood why he was ranked so high. As far as being drafted.
Although the last couple weeks he has really produced 2 in a row.
He's gone over 100 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But and what it's looking like, they're turning into a little bit more of a
running team, ball control,
a balanced team. But who knows how long that'll last, right? It depends on
I put in a claim for Cordero Patterson.
He's available.
Yeah, but who are you dropping for him?
Tayshaun Williams.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't believe he's still available.
Well, a lot of people picked him up last week.
I appreciate the call.
A lot of people picked him up last week, but didn't necessarily start him. Now in our league, I guess Steve, I don't know his team name, actually started him. He had a really good week.
Yeah.
It's not gonna last.
It is not gonna last. But you know what's interesting? In PPR leagues, do you know where he's ranked as running backs? He's number 2.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's fine. And you know what? There are 30 running backs ranked higher than Dalvin Cook right now. So
I agree.
Right now, for 4 weeks don't mean anything. But we're gonna talk about this later when we talk about who to buy low, who to sell high. When we talk about trades, because Cordero Patterson is on my sell high. If you can get rid of him
for me too,
you can get somebody.
Yes.
But we'll get into that after we talk about our waivers. But in the meantime, we still want to hear your sob stories. We want to hear your questions about who you might want to pick up, who you might want to drop, what kind of trade offers are out there. Let us know. Give us a call or comment in YouTube Live or Facebook Live. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you noticed it as well. We do have a question coming in. I'm not able to. There we go. Okay, so Billy wants to know 2 things: the Philly running game, which is mostly non-existent, and Seattle running game, where Chris Carson, who we know 2020 was huge on this year, is not looking.
Who said I was huge on him? I just got him where I drafted him.
Okay, hold on. In all fairness, Brad, you're a Sanders guy, right? So why don't you start the conversation? No, hold on. It's not wrong considering where he got Sanders. It's not that big of a deal. But Brad, talk to us about that Philly backfield. How are you feeling right now?
So I'm, obviously Gainwell is getting a little bit more love these days. I was just reading up on this, and I think Gainwell was in it was like 60-40 split. Is that about right?
Right. Yeah, he's going to be taking over
he's
that
looking
backfield.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when, right? Because they still have the capital in Sanders. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I don't know if they're giving up on him, but it is for sure becoming more of a running back by committee than was anticipated at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
As to whether or not Gainwell is going to be the number 1, I don't think that's going to happen right away. It might eventually.
Right. I think some of the talk is about that Sanders is not that regime's guy, and Gainwell was drafted by them, and so they're I think that transition is happening. It's just when exactly will it take place to start leaning the other way?
And quite honestly, he's looked more explosive. He really has.
Yeah. All
right. So
if the question is, if you can get Gainwell, if he's available, and he is available in a lot of leagues, pick him up and stash him. Or if you have a bye week or injuries to another player, he is a potential potential start.
Yeah, if you have a deep league, then you can grab Gainwell, or if you can afford a handcuff to Sanders, and you can grab Gainwell. But I don't think it's going to be a situation where he's going to take over the entire backfield. I think it's going to be back and forth all year long. Keith, why don't you talk to us about Seattle and Carson and what's going on over there?
Absolutely. So, people are looking, if you look at what happened last week, it was a near even split. It was an exact even split between Alex Collins and Carson, each getting 15 carries. And, there's talk, is this now becoming a split backfield? And from what I'm seeing and from what I'm reading, is the answer is absolutely not. What did show very evident in Sunday's games was that Carson was running with the exact words I read. He was running timid, and I think that he was a little banged up. and probably a little more banged up than was maybe leading onto, and he didn't have his normal explosive first step. But the question is he, how healthy is he now? And I think it all boils down to how healthy he is. But I don't see this becoming a split backfield with Alex Collins. But I'll tell you, Carson has not been running as effectively as he has in his past years. So, the question is how healthy is he going to be? But I do not see this, from what I'm reading and from what I know about Alex Collins, this becoming a true split backfield.
Wait, you're saying it's not going to become a split backfield?
No, it is not going to become a split backfield.
Based on what?
Based on what I've read.
Okay.
And based on what I've read. And just from what I know about how Carroll likes to use Carson. Collins did okay.
Let's remember that Carson, because of his injury past, what they've done with Carson, it's always been about a 60-40 split, whether it was with Hyde or, when I forget who it was.
Penny.
But no, but before that, they were trying to get Penny to be the guy, and he never really was. But I don't know if they have a problem with splitting the backfield if it's successful. A change of pace, it allows Carson to maybe remain healthy for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I don't think it's going to be a 50-50 and maybe 60-40, 70-30, somewhere in that range. But if you look at what happened this last week, they each got 15 carries. That is what I don't see that continuously playing out. I think it's still Carson's backfield. There's definitely going to be timeshare. This is not a situation like a Najee Harris or or anything like that. But it's not going to be a 50-50 share. That I feel pretty confident about.
We'll see.
But he hasn't looked good. The bottom line is he has not looked good, and that's the part that's concerning. He really hasn't done much this year, and there's a lot of question marks there that nobody can answer. It's how healthy is he really playing?
Yeah. All right. So I hope that answers your question. The salvation for Carson has been the 3 touchdowns in the 4 weeks. Whether or not those touchdowns are going to be scavenged, that's the issue, because that's where your points are, right? Because he's only getting, 90 yards, 30 yards, 80 yards, 30 yards. So he's not getting major yards, but luckily those rushing touchdowns have helped keep his head above water. So why don't we do this? Of course, if anybody has any questions, you can always give us a call or you can comment in YouTube Live or Facebook Live, just like Billy did, or you can call us just like Kenneth did, and we'll answer any of your questions that you might have. In the meantime, let's talk about waivers. Let's jump right into waivers. And Brad, you're looking at quarterbacks this week. We've talked a lot about quarterbacks the past few weeks. What's left on the market right now?
So it's interesting, as you said last week, right? And we can't believe we're saying it. And I'm just going to reiterate it just in case people don't know. Pick up Sam Darnold if he's available in your league. He had another big week. He is in the top 5 of quarterbacks right now in leagues. DJ Moore looks awesome. McCaffrey should be coming back this week, next week, in the next couple weeks. He just looks very good. He finally got out from under the Jets umbrella, and he's
the Adam Gase
curse.
Yeah, exactly. So if he's available, pick him up. Another quarterback who is number 6 overall in quarterbacks right now. You even know who I'm going with here?
No, let's hear it.
Daniel Jones,
yes.
Danny Dimes.
But
he's doing it with his legs.
He's doing it with his legs.
He's doing it with his legs. His numbers so far, and obviously every league is a little bit different with points, but 21, 29, 16, so a little low, and then 27. He's putting up numbers. He has more points through 4 weeks than Justin Herbert, than Cousins. Okay, he has 23 more points than these 2 quarterbacks. If either one of you can get one of these, I would be surprised. All right, 23 more points than 2 quarterbacks that most likely were drafted in every league.
I'll tell you one.
Okay, go ahead.
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, you're looking at a screen. I can see that. All
No,
right,
no, I knew that.
So Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill. Okay, now we know Tannehill's issues and whatnot, but he's doing it. If you can get him and stash him, and you have a 2-quarterback league or whatever the case may be, pick him up. I mean, he did that last week, 27 points without 2 of his top 3 receivers. Right?
Yeah.
Shepard was hurt, and anyway, the other receiver was hurt.
Oh, you're talking about Danny
Dimes. I'm talking about Danny Dimes.
Yeah.
Right.
He did get he did get Evan Ingram back, which is actually a big deal. That's only going to help him.
Which has helped him.
Slayton.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you can get him, pick him up. Again, not a guy I'm super advocating for, but he had a good week, and maybe you have some buys coming up. He's got a potentially favorable matchups coming up over the next 3 to 4 weeks, and that's Zach Wilson. He has.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Bye. I gotta go. I'm out of here. Seth, you want to go start a different show on another network?
I think the Fantasy Buzz podcast has now ended.
Bye, Felicia.
Really?
Look, he's got some decent matchups coming up.
Oh my God.
I'm only talking about bye weeks, and if you're desperate, okay, I'm saying it. Okay. The other one is Trey Lance. Okay, Garoppolo is going to be out.
I feel a little better.
Garoppolo is going to be. Look, Zach Wilson is like a prayer, right? He could either have a really good week or end up, with 0 points. Trey Lance, obviously, we know what Debo's doing. We know what Ayuk could do. He has Greg Kittle. He might have Elijah Mitchell back.
Who?
Elijah Moore and George Kittle.
I thought I've heard of him.
Elijah Moore. Yeah, I think you've heard about him 100 times.
I bet they wish they had Elijah.
But yeah, Trey Lance should be a nice option going forward. Garoppolo's going to be out. I think they're saying 2 with this injury.
Losing you.
Is what I'm reading. So, what's that?
We're losing you.
You're losing me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the idea of Trey Lance. I read a stat that a quarter of his dropbacks he scrambles. So he's not just sitting in the pocket. He's moving around. He's trying to make things happen. You can't really judge him based on last week, especially since, out of the 150 yards or whatever it was that he had, most of them came from one play on Debo.
Right.
But I agree that if you have room, if you're in a super flex, and it's a no-brainer, but if you have room to pick him up and grab him, especially in Dynasty, you need to do it now before it's too late.
Yeah, agreed. So am I back? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So those were the 3, and then all right, we'll forget Zach Wilson. Just forget I said it. Don't even.
Okay. We already forgot it until you brought it up again.
All right. We'll probably have one other good week this season.
Okay, but here's the question. I mean, what quarterbacks are you dropping in order to pick up some of these quarterbacks?
I'm talking about maybe it's a bye week. If you have someone on bye and you need someone and need a good match. That's all I'm talking about with Zach Wilson.
No, but no, forget Zach Wilson. I'm talking about in general. Are there quarterbacks? Most likely people they're sitting on their roster, and there's no reason for these quarterbacks to still be on people's roster.
I've seen Teddy Bridgewater because he started off hot for a couple of weeks on people's rosters, and he's starting to get dropped. Not even just because of the injury. I think he showed this is not a top. If you're in a league of 10 or a league of 12, is he top 10 or 12? The answer is no. So he's one that can be dropped. For sure.
I agree with you. That's a good choice.
There's a few out there that may have been drafted, like Tua or Wentz or quarterbacks like that. Even Roethlisberger is really not looking good. I mean, you can. And now they're saying,
what about Matt Ryan?
Injury.
Are you picking up? Are you dropping Sam? Are you picking up Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones and dropping Matt Ryan?
I would. I wouldn't have never.
I think you have to.
Yeah. No part of Matt Ryan. I'd much rather have Sam Darnold or Joe Burrow or any of those guys before I'd want Matt Ryan. Yeah. Daniel Jones definitely over Matt Ryan. Yeah.
Did any of you see Baker Mayfield with his? with his out of bounds throws. I was going nuts. I couldn't believe
Yeah.
I
what was
didn't
happening.
see it, but I've heard about it and a lot
Right.
of talk about it. Was it like a hitch he had or something, and he was just throwing out of bounds?
I don't know. It's almost like, the Garrow play, like you're throwing the ball and it's just not going where you think he's throwing it to.
He had the McElroy tin cup shanks. But has he really been a not rosterable but startable fantasy quarterback? Has anyone thought even was that a consideration?
No, he is what he thought he was. We thought he is what we thought he was, right? He hasn't had a single game over 18 points. Last week he only had 9 points. Quite frankly, no. Baker is not somebody you necessarily should have on your roster. But I'm curious, guys, about people like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or Jameis Winston. Are you rostering these guys?
No. I mean, there's too many quarterbacks. Go ahead. No. Well, perfect example is I'd rather roster Daniel Jones. Who's the other guy you were just talking about? The two that you were talking about? Sam Darnold. Yes, thank you. Over those guys in a heartbeat. Yeah, because again, we're not talking about NFL quarterback. For example, Baker Mayfield, the way he fits that team, it's a run-heavy team. He makes generally the smart throw. This last weekend was weird. That was an abomination. That's not what you normally see from him. He's not a fantasy quarterback, but you know what? The way that team is playing, and actually there was a great discussion with Stephen A. Smith today. He was going off. I think Baker Mayfield could lead the Browns to a Super Bowl with the way that team is playing. But from a fantasy perspective, I wouldn't want any of those guys on my team. I'd rather have a Daniel Jones, who probably couldn't lead his team to a Super Bowl, but for fantasy, he's very relevant.
All right, so let's talk.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say let's talk about running backs now.
So really interesting week for running backs. We even had, I would say, this tasty of a waiver wire out there of real significant, impact players. And of course, we're going to start with the number one waiver wire pickup for the week. And that's, of course, going to be Damian Williams. David Montgomery, they avoided, thankfully, what could have been a much worse injury. He did not tear his ACL, and it's a shame because he came off a monster game. Nice job, Cyclop, who just left. He called that. He has been running well, but he's going to be out there saying 4 to 5 weeks. And Damian Williams, if you remember, he ran hard. He did a really nice job in Kansas City when he was toting the rock. And last week, filling in when Montgomery went down, he had 8 attempts, 55 yards, and a touch. So in a cleanup role.
But then he went down.
Yeah, but they're saying they think he's fine. He doesn't look like – pay attention to it. It doesn't look like his injury is going to be anything that's going to keep him out. I would pick up Khalil Herbert, correct? Herbert. Yes, as well, if possible, and I have him on here as well. But I really liked what we saw from Damian Williams, and he had 2 targets with 2 receptions as well. By far the number one pickup. Again, this is a guy who's only going to play 4 or 5 weeks. I wouldn't go crazy on your fab money if you're $100 in fab. This is a guy I'd spend $15-20 on if you're hurting right now. If you're 0-4 and you're 1-3 and you're hurting at running back.
Okay.
Another interesting.
Before you go on,
yes.
Like we promise our guests, when they have a comment, we will break in from our standard program.
Yes, of course.
To get right to their question. Mentality. Should I give up McCaffrey, Chubb, and Logan Thomas for Michael Thomas, Eckler, and Waller?
Wow.
Looking at this without doing any analyzing, my answer is no.
No.
Between Chubb and McCaffrey, you have 2 of the top running backs in fantasy football history. I'm not playing the game in anticipation of what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. Eckler, we know, incredible fantasy football, especially even in PPR. But McCaffrey's better than Eckler, right?
Yes.
Chubb, depending on who your current tight end, it's Logan Thomas. Is the difference between Chubb and who you might have sitting on your bench greater than the difference between Logan Thomas and Darren Waller?
Yeah, I would definitely not be doing this at all. Eckler has looked phenomenal, and it's a matter of if not when he gets injured. But even if he was fine for the rest of the year, McCaffrey I don't even. It's absolutely not. I'll tell you, Logan Thomas. By the way, I lost to Cyclop this week because he went out on like the third play. There are some really nice tight ends to be had. I know we're going to cover that. There's a few out there, so don't panic over Logan Thomas's injury, but absolutely not. Do not give up McCaffrey and Chubb. You're buying way high on Austin Eckler.
Well, I mean, he might be concerned about McCaffrey's injury and about how much use you can get from him, and will he get injured again? Are we have an injury-prone issue here?
On the surface, it looks like no way, and then you start looking into it, and without you take out Michael Thomas and Logan Thomas, and you're just looking at Eckler and Waller. You're really getting a really good value there for essentially at this point Chubb, and the hope that McCaffrey comes back and is healthy. I don't necessarily take this trade, but I do evaluate it and maybe make a counter offer looking at the team. And, it also depends what else you have. I mean, you have McCaffrey and Chubb, and that how you get those two on your team is amazing already.
I just think that the Raiders offense is a bit different from last year's Raiders offense. And I'm not saying that Waller's not getting the targets. He's getting about 7 targets a game if you don't count that first game where he got like 100 targets.
19.
but the thing is, that week 1 game against Baltimore where he had over 100 yards and a touchdown, and what did he have? Like, I don't know how many catches he had. He had a bunch of catches. You guys just remember he was like targeted 20 times.
Like 13, 12 or 13.
But that was last year's game plan.
Right.
So, but when they played against Pitt, when they played against Miami, even who I thought they were going to do the same thing they did to Eric Rowe, teams have now figured out how to slow Waller down. You're not going to stop him, but they figured out how to slow him down. So if this were last year's Waller, you might have a good case here. But
you know what? The other question here is, and this is a big deal, is who is your other running back? Yeah. Obviously, you have someone that's been filling in for McCaffrey. That's a big deal. So get us that information, because I think that does play a lot of relevance here. But very, very good question. I think all of us agree, stay put until we have a little more information on that. Here's another good question. Should I drop Joe Mixon for Patterson? Absolutely not. There's got to be someone else that you can drop on your team that's going to be less relevant and impactful to get Cordarrelle Patterson. So, there has to be someone, because Mixon's injury, I don't know, what's the timetable on that?
Right now they're saying day to day. So maybe a week, maybe not even a week. But here's an interesting stat on Patterson. I'm sure you'll go into it when you do.
We're talking about sell high, buy low.
Right. No, sell high and buy low as well. But the thing is, he was only in for 27 plays last week. Now, obviously, he made the most of that. He only had a few rushes, but it was the passes. That honestly,
it's not sustainable.
Cannot sustain. Mixon is the workhorse there when he's healthy. I do not drop him. If you can drop somebody else, do that. I know. Let's see. We have some other comments here from Travis, and we'll look through that and see. But I say no, don't do that.
The guy that had McCaffrey and Chubb, his other running back is Joe Mixon. Yeah. So what you need to do is play the waiver wire this week and grab Damian Williams. With my next guy up, Samaje Perine. Right. There's guys out there that you need to, because it is still the question mark on McCaffrey. They are saying that he has a chance of returning this week, but I wouldn't overreact. These are those weeks, the 4th, 5th, 6 weeks of the season, when people are 1-3, 0-4, even 2-2, where they start making decisions like this. Your problem isn't that you're 1-3. The problem is the decisions that you make when getting in that position. You don't want to overreact. It's still early. You have a game changer, a championship winner in Christian McCaffrey. Don't give up on him. And same thing with Nick Chubb.
Okay, so Anthony is another fan of the show. I know he's been listening for a while, and we appreciate the comments. Is it time to start taking AJ Green seriously? He's scored double-digit fantasy points over the past 3 weeks and has a touchdown in 2 of them. And the answer is yes. And the answer is also going to be reiterated when I talk about which wide receivers that might be on the waiver wire. to take seriously. He's only rostered in 24% of ESPN rosters right now.
Yep.
And this is a guy who's getting the targets are there. He's getting 6 targets every single game. It's 6, 6, 6, 6 every time he gets targeted. And I think what's happening, look, we all know that Hopkins is the darling of that wide receiver core. And then Christian Kirk was always just there and was able to back him up. But then they got Moore, right? And he had a good week. So everyone's jumping on the Moore train. But the truth of the matter is A.J. Green has been the most consistent one out of those receivers. And that's the game plan, right? It's just going to be Murray throwing right, Murray throwing left, Murray throwing downfield. And to have a veteran like A.J. Green, who has seen everything, and he's been there and done that, I think they understand what they have in him. They appreciate it. He's not the same A.J. Green. He's not going to take the top off of the defense, but he knows how to get open. So the answer to your question is yes, it's time to take him seriously.
Yeah.
For sure.
Not only can he get open, but he understands when that ball is coming how to go get the ball.
Right.
He's
good at contested catches.
Yeah. Right, and that's a huge value when you got a guy that can get it downfield, like Murray. So yeah, definitely, if you're looking for a wide receiver, we're all on board with that.
Yeah, I agree. I would expect a little bit of regression. DeAndre Hopkins has been banged up, and they're even talking about he's been out there almost as a decoy for the last couple of weeks. But it looks like it's him, not Kirk and not Rondell Moore, that has become Murray's second go-to target. So I agree.
All right, Travis has another question here. Give up. It's Higbee, not higher. So it's Higbee, Carr, and Mixon to get Schultz, Dak, and Peterson.
Interesting.
I mean Patterson, not Peterson. So, this is pretty even, to be honest with you. I don't know what you're gaining by doing this deal. You said you have Barkley and Dalvin Cook as your running back, so maybe you don't need Mixon. But I think you could probably do more or get more if you're going to give up. The Higbee is a throw-in. Schultz is available on a lot of waiver wires. It's really Carr and Mixon for Dak and Patterson. Would you guys do that? Forget the tight
So
end.
I'll tell you what, if this was last year, absolutely. Because Dak Prescott last year was doing insane or having insane fantasy productions. The biggest problem we all have right now, it sucks, but Dallas actually has a defense because they have a general manager that can draft guys like Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs. So they've all of a sudden, much to the behest of the fantasy world, Dak Prescott is no longer putting up superhuman fantasy numbers. And Derek Carr was leading the league in yards. So I think you're okay with Carr. You don't need to trade Carr to get a non-superhuman Dak. He doesn't need to do it. So now you're talking about Schultz, who is on a lot of waiver wires. I do like him. I really, really like Schultz over Higbee. But to give up Mixon, and when you have Carr, I agree. Patterson, you're overpaying right now. His numbers, I also agree, are not sustainable. I probably would not pull the trigger because Mixon is one of the few three-down productive backs in the NFL on a very good Cincinnati team right now. They're playing very well, at least.
The fact, Travis, that you have Barkley and Cook to start as your bench, but you have those two guys to start, gives you the availability to maybe move Mixon. But I think you need to get a little more value. And I understand with Patterson, he's the darling right now of the last couple of weeks. But as we're talking about, it just doesn't seem sustainable in that, in that form for the long term. So I don't know that I would make this trade. I think Carr and Dak are going to be similar a lot of weeks. So I don't know that you're gaining a lot there to make that.
How do you have Barkley and Cook on the same team?
It might have been a dynasty, or it might have
Keeper
been
league. Yeah.
Keeper league. And listen, since you threw that up there, Keith, real quick, as not to digress, but you brought up Micah Parsons and being able to draft. I saw a stat recently that said that the Miami Dolphins' second first-round draft pick at number 18, Jalen Phillips, They were looking at the highest pass rush win percentage among rookie defenders through the 4 weeks. Micah Parsons is number 1. Jalen Phillips, number 2, right behind him at 20%.
He's just not. Yes, and I agree. The numbers aren't showing. He's getting pressures. He's just not getting the sack. He is going to be good. I agree. He is going to be good. But for whatever reason, not to go on a homer kick, the Dolphins cannot draft an offensive lineman. I just don't understand what that's about.
Yeah, the PFF just came out, and Austin Jackson is the worst. And I'm not just saying that subjectively, but he is the worst tackle for giving up quarterback sacks in the NFL right now. And what do they do? They'll put him right back out there.
Right back. He is painful to watch.
Well,
not to mention
Schwartz. You got Schwartz out there. You've got Wagner out there. These free agents were never picked up. I don't care how much they are. I'm not the one paying the money. What are we doing?
Yeah. I think they thought that we could. Yeah, we're lamenting, but I think we thought we could develop these guys, and they can't develop a cup of coffee. All right, so we talked about Damian Williams must pick up, and I want to go. Yes, great questions. And way to have Barkley and Cook on the same team. Your next guy, and I would say probably in order, and Travis, this is someone that you might be interested in because you have Joe Mixon, although you got enough running backs, is Samaje Perine. So you got Joe Mixon's banged up. The timetable on him is I've heard what is the timetable on him?
It's on Mixon. It's at anything from day to day to week, but I think
week to week.
I think it started off week to week, and then it's moved to day. So it might not be as bad as we think.
Right.
Although I did just get a note that Chris Carson is now went from healthy to questionable.
Wow.
Interesting.
As we were talking about him.
Yeah, and that has been his issue. So look, Perine has not been tearing the cover off the ball. He had 3 carries for 7 yards last week. And, he got one nice reception for 15, but the bottom line is it's him. It's going to be his backfield. We know Gio Bernard is guard. I know they have another running back there, but this is the guy that's going to be the guy. And it could be, who knows, a week, 2 weeks. If you need help at running back and you had Joe Mixon, I would not spend a lot on him. Do not go crazy, but he is a running back that should be looked at as a waiver wire pickup this week.
So 2020 for you, that's what, like 25% of your fab?
You know something? Wait till Eli Mitchell comes. I can't wait for this week when Eli Mitchell plays. I'm going to have the best time. I'm going to have the best time with that.
Do you have pictures of Eli Mitchell and Peyton Barber on the ceiling above your bed?
I do. Absolutely do. It's my shrine.
Before we go on, and I want to stop real quick on the Perine issues. I want to talk to you about that. But news just came across the wire that the linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys who just signed this like $70 million contract was just released. Jalen Smith, somebody who had a troubled past but was supposed to be such an incredible player and has shown signs of being a great player, has been released. So just throwing that out there, we don't know. I don't know the circumstances around it or why they would release him when they just signed him to a contract, but I just found that very interesting. Now,
that is interesting. Breaking news.
Back to the Perine issue. So the question with these people like Perine, like Damian Williams, who in your league should be picking these people up? In other words, I was looking at my team. Okay. I have a bad team. I do not like my team, but my running backs right now are Dalvin Cook and James Robinson. And in my flex, I've been playing around with Julio Jones and Myles Gaskin and Tim Patrick. I'm not a candidate, in my opinion, to pick up somebody like Perine because of what capital I would have to drop to pick him up.
Right.
So even if I want Perine because the idea that he is going to carry the load while Mixon is out is a good idea, and he's good for streaming if you have space. But I'm just saying, don't take some of these people. Don't take Williams and Perine and drop some people that have real potential moving forward. When you are week 10, week 11, week 12, you're gearing up for the playoffs. Perine's not going to do anything for you. Okay.
Right.
Damian Williams isn't going to do anything for. I'm not saying don't pick him up now. And Keith, I'm not putting you down at all. I'm just talking.
No, I know what you're saying.
Terms, Be careful.
Yes.
Don't get excited about some of these people that are substituting, because are they part of your long-term plan?
And I cannot agree more. But the problem, the truth of the matter is, most leagues go 15, 16 deep in the rosters, and most of us have one or two guys that we can part ways with, the Marquez Callaways and the,
Right.
whoever Quintus Cephas is, and those, what I'm saying? There's always guys we can part with. And if you're hurting a running back because you had, Mostert, you didn't get a chance to replace him. You had Joe Mixon, you
Mike
had
Davis.
Montgomery, Mike Davis, Chris Carson, who's really not performing, and you need help at running back. These are. I agree. Don't go crazy. Go ahead.
A lot of it also depends on our league, right? We implemented a flex this year, so now we don't start 2 running backs. We start 2/potentially 3. So, for instance, Commish, your team is not performing so well this year, right? Even though with all these good players, so. How long are you going to stay with these Julio Joneses and all these other players until you're out of it, or are you going to try to make
there's
moves?
A difference. I have gotten rid of players that I have felt are not going to perform in the long run. But somebody like Julio Jones, when healthy, is going to be a major part of that offense. I'm not worried about someone like I have Claypool. Right? Am I going to drop Claypool to get Perrine so I can start him in my flex?
No, of course not.
Maybe
Am I going to drop
Claypool,
Shepard?
But maybe you drop Claypool for Damian Williams, who looks like he's going to be the starter for the next
5-6 weeks. Yeah,
4 to 5 weeks. Almost, definitely, unless obviously there's an injury or something else. So, depending on where you are in the standings, on what you can afford to do, you have to start making moves, whether it's through trades or through picking some of these guys up to try to infuse something into your roster to get some wins.
I will tell you that PFF is recommending that people spend 30 to 60% of their FAB on Damian Williams.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's way too much.
That out there.
No, I think $15 on 115% it's
not,
unfortunately
not $32.
You know something? That's on a player that is going to be the starting running back for the rest of the season, and that is worth it to me. Yep.
Wrong.
Starting running back for the rest of the season.
He might start, and then they pull him out, and then they play the other 3 or 4 or 5. Hasty's almost healthy again.
I think they just sent Tevin Coleman back.
Tevin Coleman.
I mean, they're not going to bench Sermon and Hasty.
Zach Wilson, you're left.
I think they just signed Frank Gore.
Anyway, moving on. Latavius Murray. Moving on.
His son played against Rice on Saturday, so I watched that game. And Frank Gore Jr., who plays for Mississippi State, looks really good, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that. I think
they're saying the same thing about Tua's brother, who's looking pretty decent. Oh, yeah? Where he's playing. Yeah, we'll probably draft him. Yeah, we'll probably draft him. So here's another guy I wouldn't break the bank on, but I found it very interesting that Baltimore had Tyson Williams inactive, and Latavius Murray got 18 carries, 59 yards, and a touchdown. 0, not even a target. He hasn't had a target all year. So again, not a guy I would break the bank on, but if you're really hurting for a running back, listen, when a guy commands 18 carries, he's getting some love. And if you really need help, he's got a nice matchup against Indy. That's not the same run defense as it was last year. I wouldn't go crazy, but if you're in need, Lat Murray is out there, and he's only, believe it or not, taken up in 45% of leagues in ESPN. So someone that should be available to you.
So I didn't watch that game, but did Lev Bell get any carries?
Yes, he did, and he did not.
We had 2, I think. Yeah, he didn't look good. Yeah,
no, I'm surprised he hasn't been dropped today already.
Yeah. Here again, another long shot, but if you're in a deep league and you need someone, James White seriously injured, he's going to be out. Damian Harris is interesting. This guy, I don't think has caught a ball in his entire NFL career, but Brandon Bolden is available in a lot of leagues. Again, not something, if you miss out on Williams and Murray and Perrine. Here's a guy that you might look at because you know something. If you're in a PPR, you know what? He got you 11, 12 points last week. He had 6 targets, 6 grabs for 51 yards, only had a carry. But someone, I don't like these guys that are the change of pace, the James Whites of the world. But if you're in a deep league and you're really looking for someone and you missed out on everyone else, he's something to look at. And the last person, well, actually, there's 2 more, and I can't believe this. This guy actually probably should go up right after Damian Williams, and actually, it's Kenneth Gainwell. Unbelievably, in ESPN, he's only rostered in 35.7% of leagues. And we've already talked about how well this guy is doing. He had 3 carries, 31 yards, and a touchdown. He's only had 2 weeks where he's put up north of 10 points, but he had 8 targets, 6 grabs, and 58 yards. He's getting targeted, and he's clearly becoming a big part of the offense. So Gainwell, someone that I would go after, and I would put a little bit of vigor into getting him. After Damian Williams, probably the second best name that you would want to go after and take a look at getting. And finally, this is like a stab in the dark. If Damian Williams can't play, I would go after Khalil Herbert because he actually, they really like him. He looked good in the preseason. And, if Damian Williams can't go, if he is truly injured and you missed out on him, someone to get because they're going to want Tariq Cohen's not back yet. So he's going to see some action very shortly. So another one to go after. And those are my running backs to acquire.
All right. Sounds great. Now let's move on to wide receiver real quick. I won't spend too much time. But I have a question for you guys. Who is Justin Fields' favorite receiver?
Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Mooney. You would think it was Allen Robinson, right? Because all you got to do is get the ball anywhere within 5 yards of him and he's going to grab it. But it didn't look like it the other day on Sunday. Darnell Mooney, a guy who I was recommending that people draft in the later rounds of the draft, is actually finally coming to life. He really hasn't been doing much. And then all of a sudden, he goes for 125 yards against the Lions. He only had 100 all season long before that. So as long as Justin Fields is there, I don't know what's going to happen with that quarterback, with that backfield. But
what a mess.
It is a mess. But if Montgomery is going to be out for an extended period of time, they're going to be throwing it. So I think Mooney is a really good pickup for you guys out there. As far as who you should drop to pick him up, it depends who you have. So it's hard for me to tell you that, but he is somebody to keep an eye on. Another guy, and this is not a homer idea, but Devontae Parker, who for the first time was not drafted, probably the first time in a few years, because he had such potential. And when he had quarterbacks throwing to him constantly. Now that the Dolphins had Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle, people were like, well, Parker's not going to catch anything, or Albert Wilson. Parker's not. But he is. Parker's actually getting all of these targets. And with Will Fuller being hurt again, you're looking at Parker. He's getting like 7 targets a game, maybe 8 targets a game. So if you're looking for somebody if you're in PPR, Parker really is a nice choice for you. We already talked about AJ Green. He's only rostered in 24% of the leagues. And, if there's a negative, it's the fact that they have so many receivers that can do things between Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk and Hopkins. But, I think his target shares is 6.666. Getting 6 targets every week is encouraging. Go out there, grab AJ Green. What about tight ends?
So tight ends, I just have a couple that I was looking at for this week. Obviously, the big one is Dawson Knox, right? In Buffalo, he had 8 targets last week. He had a couple touchdowns. His target share has been through the first 4 weeks, 4, 3, and then 5, and then 8. So if you're in that 5 range, most weeks for a tight end, it's not bad. You're usually getting 1 or 2 in the red zone. But then it goes up to 8. Now, yes, we do know that they played Houston, but as Allen is getting more comfortable with him, he's getting the shares. He's 3rd overall in tight end right now.
Yeah,
for the season. So he's out there in a lot.
He's a red zone target now, right?
Yeah,
they're starting to
I think he's had 3 weeks in a row with a touchdown, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then my other one is Mike Gesicki. I think a lot of people either dropped him or he wasn't drafted, but all of a sudden, like the first few weeks, it was really slow. He had 0 catches on 3 targets and then 3 catches on 6 targets. But then all of a sudden, he's kind of blowing up a little bit. And
they must have heard everybody in Miami screaming.
Yeah, like throw it to this guy. He's probably got the best hands on the team, right? Like anything that comes near him, he catches.
Yeah, when in catch-up mode, for whatever reason, Brissett really looks for him, which is we're always going to be in catch-up mode. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And, by the way, somebody thinks we're the best football podcast out there, and I just looked. That's Jake. So thank you so much. We really do appreciate the love.
Thank
you. But can I? We're talking about Gesicki. Can I cut in for a second? I'm sorry to do this to you.
No,
we all heard about the Jakeem Grant trade today to the Chicago Bears for a 6th-round draft pick from the Miami Dolphins. Is Jakeem Grant somebody to consider picking up for that Chicago Bears offense?
No,
I don't think so at this point. I mean, he's really a return guy. I don't see him becoming enough of a big part of that offense to use a roster spot for him.
That's fair.
He plays more to Justin Fields than Andy Dalton. Justin Fields is a gunslinger. He loves throwing a deep ball. That's why Mooney is might be more in play than A-Rob, which is crazy to think, while Justin Fields is in. So there's like this crazy possibility that Grant, who's a burner, he's got the speed, could be relevant, but I don't think so.
With Grant, he's always been that guy, and maybe they'll figure out a way to use him like Tariq Cohen. I don't know, but he's always been that guy who's going to get the 1 yard, the 1 yard pass and try to run, or an end around, and run almost like gadget plays in an offense. He's never really been a guy to go downfield 10, 15, 20 yards to get catches. Again, maybe they'll try to figure out how to use him. If he was going to New England, I'd probably pick him up, right? Because anybody that goes from Miami to New England, it becomes a
well. Right,
but
exactly.
in Chicago, I don't see that.
Okay, fair enough. All right, go ahead with tight ends. I'm sorry.
No, those were my 2 main tight ends. There, other than that, there's not, a lot out there.
I gotta add. You might be missing one, and here's actually a question: are you missing him, and are we buying in on Azuma? I mean, was that a 1 week thing? I mean, Cincinnati's looking good, and Burrow looks great. Did he find something there?
I had him. I was looking at him, and I didn't write him down. And here's why: he was 1 out of 4 weeks so far. His other 3 weeks have been. He has 25 fantasy points. 22 of them were the past week. That means he's had like 3 or 4 fantasy points in the first 3 weeks. So I'm not buying on him yet. It could have just
he's
been
Tommy Tremble.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people went out. They got Tommy Tremble after watching him on that Monday night game, or no, Sunday night game, or was it a Thursday night game? I don't know. But he had a touchdown, and he was at all these targets. And then last week, not a single catch.
Right.
So
I'm not buying on him. And, if you're desperate for a tight end, or maybe you have a place to stash him, maybe if you have a deep roster, maybe pick him up. But I'm not picking him up to start in. There's 10 other tight ends that I would pick up and have on my roster. Not pick up, but have on my roster before them.
I'll tell you, there is one that you left off on. I think only reason why is you're probably going to be blown away to know that he's only owned in 30% of ESPN leagues, and that's Dalton Schultz. I mean, this guy is right now, I believe he is the number 3 fantasy tight end in football. And he is not a flash in the pan, because 3 out of 4 weeks, he's got 8 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets. He has 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games, and he's getting decent yards. He's the number 3 tight end in football.
Here's my reasoning, again, for not putting him on. Because if you're in a league that somebody hasn't picked him up already, then I want to be in that league. Okay.
30% of leagues. That's crazy.
I know. I don't know how that number is. I picked him up. He's on my roster in 3 leagues. So he should have been a guy that people were picking up after week 2.
Yeah, I think he was on our.
4.
I think he was on our waiver pickup list last
week.
Even the week before that.
So it's not that I left him off. It's just that he's a guy that I already thought people should have already picked up.
It's amazing that he's still out there. It's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you that there are available tight ends like Jared Cook and Tyler Conklin and Jonnu Smith who all have over 20 targets. I mean, these are people that are major parts of offenses. Look at Zach Ertz even, right? He's been targeted 19 times.
Yeah.
Forget about Zach Ertz. So there's plenty of people out there. I'm not touching Uzoma until I see some type of consistency with that.
There's also Mo Alley Cox had
2 catches, 2 touchdowns, or whatever.
Right. It's like
they don't play Miami every week.
Right. Exactly.
Doesn't your brother love Cox? I'm just saying.
He was not a fan of Beavers. He liked Cox. Okay. So guys, let's do this. First of all, we still haven't heard any sob stories. We want to know what's going on with your team. Did you win big? Did you win by 0.4 like I did last night? Or did you lose by 0.4 like poor Bruno did? Give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or leave your questions in the comment section on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. We're going to jump into sell high, buy low. These are guys that are on other people's rosters that either you're trying to get or you're trying to convince them to take. Let's just go one by one, okay? Brad, Keith, who's first? It doesn't matter. Just yell one out.
Cordarrelle Patterson. There's no question. This guy's the number 2.
Selling or buying?
No, selling him at an all-time high.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, we talked about him to death. What about you, Brad? Just name a name and we'll see whether or not it's a buy or a sell.
So this is an interesting one. Calvin Ridley.
Ridley is a buy.
But I have him on a buy and a sell. I have him on both.
You can't have both.
Well,
you can't have both.
You can't triple stamp or double stamp.
If you can buy him low, get him, right? Because he's got 42 targets this year. So
he's a buy.
Yeah, but he hasn't been doing good. But there's no sell high on him.
You're selling the name. You're selling the potential. So if you can sell him as high, if you can convince someone to do that, try to do that.
That's a reach. Well, I would say maybe buy low.
I mean, do you really believe that? I mean, you want to get rid of Ridley? You don't think he's worth people to buy low on Ridley?
No, I think it. Good. No, I think he's a buy low candidate. You can't. 4 weeks into the year, he's not doing anything remotely close to where he's been drafted. You can't be selling him high. You're selling him at a low.
The key. He's not doing anything remotely close to where he was drafted. And having drafted him in the second round, I agree with that. The question is, though, is it so bad where you're trying to sell high based on a name? Look, if somebody's willing to part with Ridley and I take advantage of that, I'm going to do it. It depends what I have to give up, right? If they're adding draft capital, they're adding capital to the name, and so they're going to overinflate his value, then no, I'm not picking him up, which is why you say you buy low.
Right,
if
to buy low.
Buy low on Ridley, he will look. He's going to end the season in the top 10. I'm convinced of that. And we can put $1 on it if you guys don't agree with me. That offense is trying to figure it out, trying to figure themselves out. I think they're getting closer to doing that. That's why you're buying potential with Ridley.
I can't write that down, but I'm gonna go.
I'm taking that back
because I think he will be out of the top 10. I think he'll be close to about 15.
Yeah,
so I'm in for that $1.
I agree. I don't think he's top 10
either. If you can sell him high right now. And you're not going to sell him that high, but if you can sell someone on the fact that he's still averaging over 10 targets a game, it's still Calvin Ridley. You're still getting a potential top wide receiver for the rest of the year. You might be able to get some value for him.
Look, he's 5th in the league right now in targets.
Right.
And there's going to be a time where those targets are going to turn into catches and yards and touchdowns. It's just it hasn't happened to the extent that people were expecting at this point. Okay, so my turn. I'm going to throw out the name Darrell Henderson. Are you selling high or buying low?
Buy low all day.
Yeah,
I agree. Low. He's a buy low candidate. He's got top 10 upside, no doubt about it. Who else is
he looks good? Yeah. Cortland Sutton. Are you buying low?
Sutton's a buy low for sure.
Buy low, right?
Now absolutely. He's had 2 bad weeks. I have him, so I know he's had 2 bad weeks. But I'm just doing this. I'm just waiting.
Buy low. I will take him anywhere I can get him. With Judy out, Hamler out, I agree. I love Cortland Sutton as a buy low candidate all day long. Even with a bad week, he still had 8 targets. The guy's had 28 targets in 4 weeks. This is the guy. And with Drew Lock back, I actually like Drew Lock better to throw to Cortland Sutton.
Well, he's more of a slinger for sure, not a
exactly.
Slinger.
What about you, Brad? Do you have another name to throw out?
Robert Woods. Buy low.
Woods is a sell high based on, I don't know what you're basing it on. You can't really sell high because he hasn't done anything.
No, but
you're doing it.
That'd be a buy low.
Buy low. He's still second on the team in targets. He still has 25 targets through the first 4 weeks. He also has the Giants, the Lions, and the Texans coming up in the next 3 weeks. So if there's an opportunity for him to break out and let loose, it's now, and if you could buy low and put him in your lineup, it's a good time.
All right. Well, I got 4 guys that are all premier wide receivers. 3 more guys that are premier wide receivers who have not been doing well, or at least last week didn't do well, and that's Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, and CeeDee Lamb. All 3 of these guys are kind of like CeeDee Lamb's was doing great, and then last week he had a dud. DeAndre Hopkins, as you know, Brad, has not been performing up to where he was drafted, and Stephon Diggs, same type of thing. If you can grab, and that's why I threw Ridley in, because I think Diggs and Ridley and Hopkins and Lamb are all in the same boat. If you can buy any of those guys low, you grab them.
I agree. And I have Diggs at the top of that list because here's the problem with Diggs. He's not doing terrible. I mean, the guy's had 15.9, 16, 12, and 20 points in the last 4 weeks. The targets are insane. 41 targets in 4 games. That's absolutely insane. The problem, he was drafted
less than Ridley.
I agree, but he's got a much better quarterback throwing him the ball. They're better targets than what Matt Ryan is putting out there. The point is, Diggs was either the number 2 or number 3 receiver off the board. It was going Adams and then very often Diggs before Hopkins. So is he playing up to wide receiver overall to potential? Maybe not, but I would love to get Diggs. He's getting the targets. That offense looks like it's starting to right itself. If you can get him, I don't think there's a buy low on him because he's not doing bad. He just isn't doing what he did last year.
That offense is running more this year, and that's bothersome to Diggs owners probably.
Yeah,
and they played Houston, so you got to.
With Emmanuel and Beasley, I mean, other people are getting the targets that Diggs was getting, so that's the biggest issue.
All right, here's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, are you buying low?
I'm holding steady. Is that an option?
No. Is buy low or?
Obviously, everyone who has the potential to be a starting running back who doesn't, you buy low. But, I don't know if anybody would be selling him right now.
That's the problem. If you can get him in some trade key, and 2020, I sent you a trade earlier. I don't know if you've looked at it, but I don't even remember exactly what it was. Yeah, just a couple hours ago. But I sent a few out.
Wait. Does 2020 get a superior advantage to the nth degree? Because otherwise, why did you?
No, I know it won't be accepted. I know. If you can look at it, actually look at it now. See, I don't even remember what.
Let's see.
But
take a look at it. But what do you think about Taylor?
I think if you can get him, grab him.
All right.
Yeah, but you're not going to get him for nothing. You're not going to, you're not buying him low. He just had a decent week.
Right.
And, he is the guy there. There's no, Hines has been.
I've got a name for you. Are you buying or selling Damian Harris?
Yes. He's on a waiver. Oh, Damian Harris in New England.
Damian Harris in New England.
I'm selling him if I can.
I'm actually going to buy him.
I'm going to buy him too.
Yeah, he's catching balls now, and that was his big flaw. He had 6 targets last week with James White gone. It's a big deal. They still don't. Bromedale Stevenson, if I'm saying that right, is still not out of the doghouse. So it's him and Brandon Bolden, which is who knows how it's going to be, but they like Damian Harris there.
But Harris didn't look good the past few weeks, but they played New Orleans. They played Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Both defenses ranked in the top 7 against the run. They both limit opposing running backs to the bottom 8 fantasy production in standard leagues. If you have an opportunity to grab Damian Harris,
great buy low.
Time to do it. Another and then I'll throw out another guy in there. Are you still looking for that trade offer? But I'll throw out another guy, George Kittle. I know he was drafted high, and people are going to say, well, he drafted high, I have to get a lot back for him. But if you can find somebody who's frustrated with Kittle's lack of production, buy him before he has that big game and everybody remembers why Kittle was drafted so high.
Okay, so here's the offer I sent to
I'm looking at it.
To 2020. Okay, I'm going to tell you what it is. You know, it's I don't think it's
zero interest in this offer, by the way.
Of course, I know, because it doesn't, you know, it's not a 90-10.
No, it's taking because it's a terrible offer.
All right, so it's Jalen Waddle, who's basically a throw-in, and Jonathan Taylor for Hopkins and Javonte Williams.
That's not a bad offer. That's a fair trade. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm just saying it's a fair trade. But you make it sound, Keith, you make it sound like it's like an egregious, offer that Brad was making.
Yeah, Javon. Listen, that's Melvin Gordon's backfield. This is my first round pick.
No. Look at the numbers. It's not. It's a split backfield right now.
I'm looking at the fact that he's the 34th ranked running back, and he's eclipsed 9 points. 6.7. He's 7 carries last week. He's not getting the targets, the yards, and he's had one touchdown.
Let me ask you this: not that Brad would do it, and I'm not a board certified mediator, but not that Brad would do it. But if it was Swift instead of Javonte, would you do it?
That's a much different offer that I would look at. Yes. I might consider it. The problem is there's so many mouths here. Here's the deal with trades, and we know this. It's not the players involved. It's how are those players fitting your needs on your team right now, and that's the issue. And honestly, do I need to give up? I'm not upgrading. I'm degrading at running back to upgrade. You're right, downgrading. Well, you degrade This year, you're degrading my running backs. But yes, downgrading my running backs to upgrade my receivers. And the question is, how badly do I need to upgrade my receivers? I have Tyreek Hill, and I've got Cortland Sutton and Robert Woods. Tyreek Hill, I'm ecstatic with.
You need to upgrade your receivers.
Thank you. You're getting Hopkins, who still not doing well, is still in the top. I think he's the number 7 receiver right now, or something to that effect.
Yeah. It's
okay.
I don't know. I have no idea if he is, but it's not worth giving up. It's not worth giving up Jonathan Taylor to do something like that. So for me on my team, that's not a fit. Personally, it's not a fit.
All right, guys. So listen, we've got a great Thursday night game coming up between the Rams and the Seahawks. It's going to be hopefully a barn burner, right? We'll see if Robert Woods can do anything. Real quick, we didn't talk about Josh Gordon, guys. Are we going out and picking up Josh Gordon, play with the Chiefs, or like you would say, Keith, are there too many mouths to feed in Kansas City?
Or actually, like you would say, who are you going to drop to get him? Right. So again, if you have, it's just the name that keeps coming up, like a Marquez Callaway or someone like that. To drop, take a flyer on him. He's got a huge upside. All I'm going to tell you, guys have caught a pass in the NFL since 2019 on a team that is owned by Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce as the pass catchers. So you can take a flyer if you have someone to drop. Why not?
All right, fair enough. And then
go ahead.
I was just going to go ahead, Brad.
No, I'm just saying with Gordon, he's got a potential upside, right? Because the guy has talent. He's rested.
He used to.
Right? Well, he used to have. He must have talent if they're going to bring him into Kansas City, and bring him up to the 53-man roster, which tells you they want to use him somehow. Is it worth a roster spot if you have Marquez Callaway or some of these guys on your roster that are basically just fillers at this point? Yeah, it's worth a roster spot to see, because there's a lot of attention that goes to Hill and to Kelsey and to CEH. So there's room for a guy with talent to be open.
All right. That's fair. So, all right. So we're going to go on. We're going to shut the show down for the night. We usually do about an hour. We went over that tonight because there's just so much to talk about. Next Tuesday night, I do want to talk about who's got the greatest name in football, because we're talking about Cephas. There's so many great names out there. Next Tuesday night, we'll get into some of the best names in the NFL. We'll go through that. And, of course, Sunday morning is our Stardom Bencham show. We start at 11 a.m. During the hour, we get the actives and inactive lists from the NFL. We're able to share that with our audience. So join us Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. Guys, any final words?
Could we bring in Key and Peele for that name segment?
Oh, my God, the best.
We might have to play a clip from that.
If a name is Key and Peele worthy.
Oh, my God. All right. Anyway, yes, hopefully we'll have another great primetime game. I got to tell you, the primetime football, the entire season, Thursday, Sunday night, Monday night, has been incredible. Even last night, which got a little away towards the end, was a great game. So looking forward to a great Thursday night game. Yep. Good show, gentlemen.
All right, guys. Take care.